The sky above Earth was unusually clear that day. The sun shone brightly, and the world carried on, unaware of the impending doom. It was a peaceful day, but that peace would soon be shattered. High above, in the cold darkness of space, something massive was approaching. A fleet of warships, so large that they blocked out the stars, was heading directly for Earth. This was no ordinary enemy. The Galactic Empire, a powerful force that controlled entire star systems, had set its sights on Earth. The people of Earth had no idea. They went about their daily lives, completely unaware of the danger lurking just beyond their atmosphere. But in the command room of Earth's defense headquarters, a different story was unfolding. General Carter, a seasoned military leader, stood in front of a large screen. His eyes were fixed on the display, watching as thousands of incoming ships appeared on Earth's radar. He felt his heart race. He had seen many things in his life: wars, invasions, and battles. But this was unlike anything he had ever imagined. The Galactic Empire was not a small petty force. It was a mighty, overwhelming power. And they were coming for Earth. "How many ships are we talking about?" Carter asked his second-in-command, Lieutenant Briggs. His voice was calm, but his mind raced with questions. Briggs looked at the data on the screen, his face pale. "More than 3,000 warships, sir. And that's just the beginning. There are at least 10 times that number on the way from other parts of their empire. This is the largest invasion force we've ever seen." Carter's mind raced. How could Earth stand a chance against an enemy like this? The Galactic Empire had advanced technology beyond anything Earth had ever known. Their ships could travel faster than light, and their weapons could destroy entire cities in seconds. There was no way Earth's defenses, even with their advanced weapons, could hold up against such a force. But as the general looked at the radar, he noticed something strange. The fleet was moving slowly. Too slowly. The ships were enormous, and the longer they took to reach Earth, the more time Earth's forces had to prepare. "We need to act fast," Carter said. "Deploy the defense systems. Get the word out to every military base. We have to prepare for a fight." As the military began to scramble into action, a different scene was unfolding light years away, aboard one of the flagship ships in the Galactic Empire's fleet. Inside the ship's command center, Sailor, a high-ranking delegate of the Empire, watched the view screen with a mix of curiosity and confusion. His job was not to fight but to negotiate, to understand and guide the Empire's conquests. He had seen many worlds fall before the Empire's might, and yet this one was different. "Why are we taking so long to attack?" Sailor asked his superior, Zorath, the fleet commander. Zorath, a towering figure clad in dark armor, turned to face Sailor. His eyes glowed with an unshakable confidence. "We wait because we can. Earth has no idea what is coming. They won't even know what hit them. The invasion is already decided. It's just a matter of time before they bow before us." Sailor nodded, but he could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. He had been to countless planets, seen civilizations crumble under the Empire's control, but Earth was different. It was small, yes, but it had something that most of the other planets did not. The humans were unpredictable. They fought with a passion, a fire that Sailor had not seen in many years. He had heard stories of Earth's resilience. He had seen the reports of humanity's conflicts, their wars, and their ability to survive against impossible odds. But he had also heard whispers that the humans had something far more dangerous than they could imagine, something that could turn the tide of any war. Was it possible? Could Earth truly be as powerful as some had claimed? Sailor turned back to the view screen, his doubts growing with every passing moment. He could feel something in the air, a strange energy that he could not explain. It was as if Earth was preparing for a battle it had no idea was coming. The tension in the command room was palpable. Meanwhile, on Earth, the first sign of the invasion had just appeared in the form of a massive cloud in the sky. People looked up in confusion as they saw the dark mass slowly grow larger. Some thought it was a storm. Others thought it was an unusual cloud formation. But the truth was far worse. General Carter stood in the command center, watching as the first ships from the Empire began to break through the Earth's atmosphere. His mind raced. He had seen battles before, but never like this. This was an invasion. This was the beginning of something Earth had never experienced. It was a battle for survival, and Earth's fate now hung in the balance. "Prepare for battle," Carter shouted, his voice firm. "The fight for Earth begins now." The Empire's fleet was closing in, and the war had only just begun. This introduction sets up the dramatic conflict, introduces the key characters, and builds suspense about the upcoming invasion. It emphasizes the disparity in power between the Galactic Empire and Earth, but hints at the mysterious strength of humanity that could turn the tide. The audience will want to know, can Earth survive? What makes humans so dangerous to the Galactic Empire? The atmosphere on Earth's surface was tense. People had begun to notice the strange, dark shapes blocking the sky. Those who looked up with curiosity soon turned to panic as the truth became undeniable. The Galactic Empire had arrived. In military command centers around the world, the air was thick with urgency. Across Earth, preparations for the unimaginable were underway. Nations were activating defense systems, launching fighter jets, and preparing soldiers for what seemed like an impossible fight. General Carter paced back and forth, watching the live feed of the fleet in orbit. His mind raced. Could Earth's weapons really stand up to a force so powerful? "We're running out of time," Carter muttered to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Briggs. "The fleet is almost within striking distance. We have no choice. We fight with what we have." Lieutenant Briggs nodded, though his face was pale. "Sir, the first wave of defense satellites is ready, but their weapons are nothing compared to what those ships have." Carter took a deep breath. "We have to buy time. The humans on the ground need more time to prepare. We can't let them land unchallenged." Across the globe, Earth's defense systems activated. Missiles shot into the sky, their trails of smoke visible even in the daylight. The first wave of Earth's counterattack had begun. High above, the Galactic fleet was ready. Zeller, the delegate of the Empire, observed the chaos below with a mix of disbelief and amusement. He had seen entire civilizations bow before the might of the Galactic Empire, and Earth, with its primitive technology, seemed no different. Or so he thought. "Do they truly believe they can stand against us?" Zeller asked, turning to Zoreth, the Empire's fleet commander. Zoreth's eyes remained fixed on the Earth below. "They are weak," Zoreth said confidently. "Our forces will crush them in minutes. There is no way they can stop us." Zeller nodded, but his unease grew. Earth's resilience was something he had heard of, but he had never seen it firsthand. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of an alarm. The first missiles launched by Earth's defense systems made their mark, but the Empire's shields easily deflected the attacks. A few smaller ships were damaged, but nothing significant. The true power of the Empire was in its massive warships, capable of withstanding nearly anything. As the first wave of Earth's missiles struck, Zoreth gave a cold, commanding smile. "It's over," he said, waving his hand in a dismissive motion. "Send in the second wave. Let's end this quickly." The second wave of missiles fired from the Galactic fleet, and within moments, explosions rocked Earth's surface. Cities were struck by the sheer power of the attack. But even as Earth's cities crumbled, humanity didn't give up. "Stay strong," General Carter shouted into the microphone. "Deploy all fighters. We can still hold them off." The fighter jets from Earth's military rose into the sky, thousands of them racing toward the oncoming enemy. The first wave of Earth's fighters engaged the Galactic fleet, diving and weaving through the air, launching missiles and firing lasers. It was a desperate, but brave, defense. Despite their advanced technology, the Empire's ships had not expected the human fighters to be so coordinated, so fearless. The first few minutes of battle saw a surprising number of smaller galactic ships go down, their sleek designs no match for Earth's fast-moving fighters. Xalor, observing the battle from the flagship, felt a growing sense of disbelief. "What are they doing?" he asked, watching as the humans' small, agile ships darted between the giant warships. "They should have been destroyed by now." Zoreth frowned. "They are putting up a fight, but it won't last long. Our forces are overwhelming. The victory is ours." But even as Zoreth spoke, Xalor felt uneasy. The humans were doing something unexpected, something that had never been done before. They weren't retreating, and they weren't surrendering. They were fighting with everything they had. Meanwhile, down on Earth, General Carter watched the battle unfold through his command center's massive screens. He could see the Empire's ships towering above the fighters, but Earth's pilots were holding their own. One of the top pilots, Lieutenant Sarah Lawson, was in the thick of it. Her fighter dodged a blast from an Empire warship, narrowly avoiding destruction. "I'm not going down without a fight," she muttered, her hands gripping the controls. Sarah's fighter fired a missile that hit one of the smaller enemy ships, sending it spiraling into the atmosphere. Earth's forces were fighting back, showing that they would never back down. As Earth's defenses continued to struggle, Carter turned to his team. "We can't stop them, but we can slow them down. We need to keep them engaged long enough for the next phase of defense to be activated." The battle continued for hours. Earth's forces, despite being outclassed and outgunned, fought fiercely. The Empire had underestimated the humans, thinking they would break under the first strike. But they didn't. They stood firm, refusing to surrender, refusing to accept defeat. Xalor watched the battle in silence, his earlier certainty fading. The humans weren't like anything he had expected. They fought with passion and determination, and it was becoming clear that this battle would not be as easy as he had once thought. As the first day of battle ended, neither side had claimed victory, but Xalor couldn't shake the feeling that Earth wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for something more, something that the Empire had never expected. And he began to wonder, was the Galactic Empire making a grave mistake by underestimating Earth? The war had only just begun. The night had fallen over Earth, but the sky was far from dark. The glow from the burning cities lit up the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. The battle between humanity and the Galactic Empire was far from over. General Carter stood on the balcony of Earth's main command center, staring up at the sky. The Empire's warships still loomed above, their massive shadows blocking out the stars. He could feel the weight of the world pressing down on him. So many lives were on the line. He had seen destruction before, but nothing like this. The sheer scale of the Empire's might was overwhelming. "Sir, we've just received reports from several regions," Lieutenant Briggs said, walking up behind him. "The fighter jets are holding their ground, but their numbers are shrinking. We're losing pilots faster than we can replace them." Carter didn't respond immediately. His mind was racing. The humans were giving their all, but their resources were limited. The Galactic Empire had an endless supply of warships, and no matter how many they destroyed, more kept coming. The Earth's defenses were beginning to falter. "I need to know what we have left," Carter said, his voice steady despite the panic building inside him. "We're activating the second phase of the defense system. The new orbital lasers are coming online," Briggs replied. "But they'll need time to charge up. We're still a few hours away from full capacity." A few hours. Carter didn't know if Earth had that much time. Every minute felt like a lifetime. He turned back to the screen where the battle raged on. A few of Earth's fighter jets managed to take down another enemy ship, but it wasn't enough. The Empire's ships were too large, too powerful. As the minutes passed, Earth's defenses began to fall apart. Missiles fired from the Empire's warships destroyed entire cities in seconds. The destruction was on a scale that humanity had never witnessed. Even the most advanced technology Earth had was no match for the Empire's weapons. But then, something unexpected happened. Something that would change the course of the war. A transmission came through to General Carter's communication center. It wasn't from one of Earth's military bases. It was from the Galactic fleet. Carter's eyes widened when he saw the message. General Carter, this is Xalor of the Galactic Empire. I am a delegate of the Empire's High Council. The voice crackled through the speakers. I am sending this message because I believe that you, the humans of Earth, deserve to know the truth about what is happening. You are not fighting for survival. You are fighting for your very existence. Carter felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He had heard rumors that there were dissenters within the Empire, but this was something else. Was Xalor trying to turn the tide in Earth's favor, or was this some sort of trick? Xalor continued, his tone unusually calm. You see, General, the Empire did not come to Earth to destroy it. No, we came because we were ordered to. But now, after seeing your people fight, after seeing the strength and resilience you have shown, I can no longer support this invasion. Carter's heart pounded. Was this really happening? Could it be that someone within the Empire was willing to help them? Are you saying that you want to stop the invasion? Carter asked, unable to keep the disbelief from his voice. Xalor's voice was filled with frustration. I have no power to stop the Empire's fleet, but I can help you fight back. I will give you access to our internal communications. I will share critical information that could change the tide of this battle. But it must be done quickly, before the High Council realizes what I'm doing. Carter stood in stunned silence. This was the chance they had been waiting for. But could they trust Xalor? Was he truly on their side? Or was this a trap? Why are you doing this? Carter finally asked. Why would you betray your own people? Xalor paused before replying. Because I have seen the true strength of your people. The Empire has always conquered with fear, but you humans fight with something far stronger. Your will to survive. That is something the Empire cannot understand. I believe that your survival is worth fighting for. Carter felt a flicker of hope. For the first time since the invasion began, he felt like they had a chance. If Xalor could help them, if he could give them the information they needed, they could turn this war around. All right, Carter said, his voice firm. Give us what we need. We'll fight with everything we've got. The transmission went silent for a moment. Then, Xalor's voice came through once again. I will send you the coordinates of their command center. Strike there, and you may have a chance. But be careful. The Empire will know I have contacted you, and they won't let me betray them without consequences. I understand, Carter said, determination flooding his words. We'll make it count. Thank you, Xalor. We won't forget this. As the transmission ended, Carter turned to his team. This is it. We've got one shot at this. Let's make sure we don't waste it. The tides of war had shifted. With new information from the inside, Earth's forces were now in a position to strike back at the heart of the Empire. But the question remained, would it be enough to turn the battle in their favor? The night seemed endless. Earth's last hope now rested on the shoulders of General Carter and his team. The coordinates Xalor provided were clear, deep within the heart of the Galactic Empire's fleet, where the Empire's command center lay hidden. But the path was fraught with danger. Earth's forces were already stretched thin, and now they were preparing for an assault against one of the most fortified locations the universe had ever known. General Carter stared at the map displayed in front of him, deep in thought. The plan was risky, perhaps too risky, but it was the only chance they had. The Galactic fleet was vast, and their shields were nearly impenetrable. Taking down the heart of the Empire was their only option. But there was a catch. Do you really trust him? Lieutenant Briggs asked quietly, standing next to Carter. Carter turned to face him. I don't know, but we don't have a choice. If he's telling the truth, this is the key to ending this war. If he's lying. Carter trailed off, knowing the consequences. It was a gamble they had to take. The plan was simple. Earth's fighters would infiltrate the Empire's perimeter, using the coordinates Xalor provided to slip through the defensive lines unnoticed. Once they reached the command center, they would strike, hoping to cripple the Empire's ability to command their forces. It was a long shot, but it was their only shot. The first wave of fighter jets, led by Lieutenant Sarah Lawson, soared into the night sky. The engines roared as they shot past the burning cities below. In the distance, the Empire's massive warships floated like giants, their lights flickering as if watching Earth's every move. Sarah's pulse quickened. She could feel the weight of the mission. If they failed, Earth would fall. "This is it," Sarah muttered to herself, tightening her grip on the controls. "We can't turn back now." The first few minutes of the mission went smoothly. Earth's pilots expertly navigated through the asteroid fields and debris, carefully avoiding the Empire's patrol ships. But the closer they got to the Empire's command center, the more dangerous it became. Earth's jets weren't built to fight the full force of the Galactic fleet. They had no choice but to rely on speed and stealth. Meanwhile, on the flagship of the Galactic fleet, Sailor watched the incoming data with growing concern. He had given them the coordinates, but something felt wrong. The Empire's defenses were now on high alert. A part of him knew that if the humans succeeded, the entire Empire would come crashing down, and he would be blamed for it. Still, he prayed that they could win. His fears grew as the Empire's warships began to move into formation. "Send a message to the High Council," Zeller ordered, his voice filled with anxiety. "Tell them something is wrong. The humans are closer than we anticipated." But before he could say more, his comm unit flashed. It was a transmission from the High Council. Zeller's heart sank as the voice of the council leader boomed in his ear. "Zeller, what have you done? We know of your communication with the humans. Do not think you can escape the consequences of your actions. Prepare for your punishment." Zeller's mind raced. He had to act quickly. Earth's forces were moving closer to their target, and the High Council would soon realize his betrayal. But even as he considered his next move, a shocking realization hit him. There was no way out. The Empire would destroy him, and there would be no mercy for a traitor. "I have to warn them," Zeller muttered under his breath. "I have to warn the humans." Meanwhile, Earth's fighter jets were nearing the target. They were almost there, but then disaster struck. A sudden burst of energy disrupted the air. A warning alarm blared in every pilot's ear. "Enemy ships closing in," Sarah shouted over the comms. "Brace for impact." Before anyone could react, the Empire's ships appeared out of nowhere. They had been waiting, anticipating the strike. The human jets were surrounded, trapped by an impenetrable barrier of galactic warships. The battle had turned into a deadly trap. "Sarah, fall back, fall back." General Carter's voice rang through the comms. But it was too late. The Empire's fleet had launched their counterattack. Explosions rocked the air as several of Earth's fighter jets were hit. Fireballs lit up the sky as Earth's brave pilots fought for survival, their jets spinning out of control. "We can't hold them off." One of the pilots screamed as his jet was struck by a powerful blast, sending him plummeting toward the Earth below. Sarah gritted her teeth as she dodged enemy fire. "I won't let them win." The atmosphere crackled with tension as the battle escalated. Earth's forces were being overpowered, and the command center's countdown was growing closer. If they couldn't stop the Empire's fleet, the war was as good as lost. Back in the Galactic fleet's command ship, Zeller watched in horror. His betrayal had backfired. The humans had been caught in a trap, and now his chance to save them seemed lost. But then, a small glimmer of hope sparked in Zeller's heart. Through the chaos, he saw a way to make things right. "I have to do this," he whispered to himself. In a split second, Zeller made a decision. He activated a secret command, one that would override the High Council's orders and give Earth's forces one last chance to strike. "General Carter," Zeller's voice crackled over the comms. "The coordinates you need are no longer valid. You must listen carefully. I'm sending you a new path, one that leads to the heart of the Empire. Strike now, before it's too late." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving General Carter in shock. But he knew what he had to do. "Everyone, follow the new coordinates," Carter shouted over the comms. "We're taking this fight to them, no matter what." As Earth's remaining fighters adjusted their course, the true battle for Earth began. The stakes had never been higher, and the fate of the planet rested on a knife's edge. The air was thick with tension. Earth's fighters, scattered and broken, had followed the new coordinates provided by Xalar. They flew faster than ever, through narrow channels of space, avoiding debris from destroyed warships and the looming shadows of the enemy's fleet. General Carter knew the stakes had changed. This wasn't just a battle for Earth anymore. This was a battle for the future of the galaxy. Sarah Lawson's hands gripped the controls of her fighter. Her breath was heavy, her heart pounding in her chest. The Empire's massive fleet had now surrounded them, but somehow they were still pushing forward. She glanced at her HUD, showing only a handful of Earth's fighters still in the race, but every one of them was determined to make it. "Stay focused, people," she said, her voice tight with command. "We're almost there. We make it through this, and we win. Do you hear me? We win." But as she spoke, the realization struck her. They were almost there, almost to the Empire's command center. And the closer they got, the more dangerous it became. The Empire's defenses were massive, and their ships were relentless, picking off Earth's fighters one by one. Yet despite the odds, the fighters pressed on. Behind her, the sounds of battle echoed. Explosions shook the area as enemy fire rained down. Sarah's fighter veered to the side just in time to dodge a blast. "Damn it. These ships are everywhere." "Sarah, pull back." General Carter's voice crackled through the comms. "We can't take much more of this. You need to hold position." She glanced at the screen. The battle was becoming more frantic. Earth's remaining fighters were running low on fuel, weapons were near depleted, and their shields were almost gone. Yet they could see it, the heart of the Empire's fleet, the command center that held the keys to everything. If they could just get to it. "I'm not pulling back," Sarah growled, determination flooding her veins. "Not now. Not ever." The fighters pushed ahead, weaving through fire and chaos. But it wasn't enough. The Empire's fleet was too large, their ships too powerful. Just as they approached the final stretch toward the heart of the Empire's forces, an enormous warship appeared from behind a nearby moon. It was the flagship of the Empire, larger than any ship they had seen before. Its guns locked onto Sarah's fighter, and the targeting systems lit up with red lights. "Sarah, get out of there. They're locking on," Carter shouted. Her eyes narrowed. The Empire's flagship had positioned itself perfectly to end this. There was no escape. She could feel the heat from the approaching energy blast, her fighter's shields already flickering with the strain. And then everything went black. A powerful explosion engulfed Sarah's fighter, and the world seemed to go silent. But it wasn't the end. Through the silence came a voice. Xalar's voice, coming through the comms, piercing the chaos like a lifeline. "Earth's forces, I've disabled the flagship's weapon systems. The command center is vulnerable. You must strike now." The sudden shift was like a shockwave through the battle. General Carter, who had been waiting for a sign, didn't hesitate. This was it, Earth's last chance. "All fighters, break through the lines." Carter barked. "We push forward now, or we lose everything." The remaining fighters rallied, powered by a single purpose: destroy the heart of the Empire. Sarah's fighter, though damaged, miraculously reactivated. She wasn't finished yet. Gritting her teeth, she pulled the throttle forward. The fighter shot through the remaining enemy ships, her vision narrowed to the looming command center ahead. The Empire's flagship was no longer firing back. The massive warship was retreating, its engines sputtering as if it had no more fight left. It was a chance, a real chance, and Earth's forces weren't about to waste it. The fighters began their descent into the Empire's command center. They could see the enormous station now, a twisting, metallic monstrosity, floating in the void. It was impossible to miss. They had arrived. As the fighters descended, enemy forces scrambled to intercept. Laser fire blazed across the sky, but Earth's fighters were too quick. They dove through narrow channels, dodging blasts, and weaving between giant towers that stretched like fingers reaching into space. The end was in sight. Then Sarah saw it, the central core of the station. It glowed, vulnerable, exposed. One strike would be enough to destroy it. Her targeting system locked on, and her fighter's weapons hummed with power. Her hand hovered over the trigger. The Empire was finally within reach. But just as she was about to pull the trigger, a voice rang out through the comms. "Wait," Sailor's voice echoed. "There is still a risk. If you strike now, the entire fleet will collapse, but it will send a chain reaction throughout the galaxy. All the planets, including Earth, will be destroyed in the aftermath." Sarah froze, her finger trembling over the trigger. Was Sailor telling the truth? Was there another way? Could Earth truly destroy the Empire without destroying itself? The time for hesitation was short. The enemy was closing in. Earth had fought so hard, sacrificed so much. Would they be willing to risk everything? This was it. The final decision. "Sarah, do it," General Carter ordered firmly, his voice unwavering. "We've come this far. We have to trust him. We have to finish it." With those words, Sarah made up her mind. She squeezed the trigger. A burst of energy shot from her fighter's guns, slamming into the Empire's command center. The explosion was unlike anything Earth had ever seen. It shook the very foundation of the galaxy. For a moment, time stood still. And then, the shockwave hit. The explosion was cataclysmic. The Empire's command center, once a beacon of power and control, now a blazing ball of destruction, sent shockwaves rippling through space. Earth's fighters had successfully pierced its core. The enormous structure was collapsing, its twisted metal and energy shields erupting in brilliant flashes of light. But for Sarah Lawson and her team, the battle wasn't over. Not yet. A deafening silence followed the explosion. All communications went dark, the fighters momentarily cut off from their comrades. Sarah's heart raced as she desperately tried to reconnect. The comms buzzed with static, and she cursed under her breath, tapping at the console in frustration. Come on," she muttered. Finally, General Carter's voice came through the comms, crackling, but audible. "Sarah, status report." "General," Sarah replied, her hands shaking. "We hit the core. The station's going down. But..." The ship rocked violently as another barrage of enemy fire exploded near Sarah's fighter. The sudden shake almost sent her off course. She gritted her teeth, keeping the fighter steady as she swerved to avoid another volley. "But what?" Carter demanded. Sarah's voice tightened with urgency. "The Empire's fleet isn't retreating. They're coming for us with everything they've got. We need backup now." Ahead of her, the remnants of the Empire's warships were regrouping, their guns firing relentlessly. The remaining enemy ships, though damaged, were closing in like a hungry pack of wolves. They had no intention of letting Earth's forces escape. Through the chaos, Sarah saw the glint of several Earth fighters, scattered and disorganized. Some were damaged beyond repair. Others were barely holding on. Their shields were depleted, and their weapons had become mere sparks in the endless void of space. "Sarah," Carter's voice came through again, now laced with desperation. "There's no time. Earth is counting on you. You have to lead them out of this. Now." The words hit Sarah like a punch. She had known this moment would come, but now that it was here, she felt a rush of uncertainty. "We can't just keep running, General," she shot back, dodging yet another wave of enemy fire. "They'll catch us. We have to make a stand. We can't let them take us down." The enemy fleet was in full pursuit now, their ships forming tight formations, closing in with terrifying precision. It was only a matter of time before they overwhelmed Earth's remaining forces, but Sarah wouldn't give up. Not now. Not after everything they'd been through. The enemy warships, their engines glowing like fiery eyes in the distance, fired their deadly beams of light. One of Earth's remaining fighters exploded in a bright burst, sending fragments of metal scattering across space. Sarah gritted her teeth, her fingers flying across the controls. "All fighters, listen up," she shouted, her voice steady but firm. "We're not retreating. We're holding the line. If we go down fighting." Her words seemed to echo across the void, resonating with the remaining Earth pilots. They were scared. They were outnumbered. But the fire of defiance lit within them all. Sarah's fighter, battered but still operational, dove toward the enemy fleet. She activated the last of her ship's remaining weapons, the energy cannons humming to life. The battlefield, filled with the crumbling remnants of war, was now a deadly game of survival. As she sped toward the oncoming ships, a thought crossed her mind. There was a chance, a slim one, but a chance, that if they took out the enemy flagship, they could cripple the entire fleet. Without the flagship's command, the Empire's ships would be nothing more than sitting ducks. Sarah's heart pounded. "It's all or nothing," she whispered, her grip tightening on the controls. "We end this now." Without another word, she set her course straight for the massive flagship at the center of the fleet. Her sensors blared warnings as the enemy guns targeted her, but she didn't flinch. The remaining Earth fighters followed, their resolve burning brighter than ever. The battle seemed to slow down in her mind as she neared the massive warship. The energy around her crackled with intensity. It was a race against time. Every moment felt like an eternity. Then, the flagship loomed large, an impenetrable fortress of metal and firepower. The final obstacle. Her weapons charge, and the fighters' targeting systems locked onto the weak points of the flagship. The last bit of Sarah's strength went into the final push. The fighter veered left, then right, narrowly avoiding a barrage of enemy fire. Her hands worked in a blur, locking onto the flagship's vulnerable engines. "Now," she screamed, releasing a full barrage from her weapons. The energy blasts connected, exploding against the flagship's hull with thunderous force. The ship's shields flickered, and then, as if in slow motion, they gave way. Sarah's fighter zoomed past the ship as it buckled under the sheer power of the attack. The enemy flagship screamed as it broke apart, its engines erupting in a ball of flames. The massive ship began to tumble, spiraling into the heart of the remaining Empire fleet. "Yes," Sarah shouted, her voice raw with relief. But her joy was short-lived. As the flagship crumbled, the remaining ships faltered, but not enough to stop them. "All fighters, fall back," General Carter ordered urgently. "We've lost too many. Get to the extraction points now." But Sarah didn't want to leave. She couldn't. The battle had changed the course of history, and in her heart, she knew Earth had won a major victory. But would it be enough? The remaining Empire fleet wasn't retreating. They were fighting with their last breath. The future of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy, still hung in the balance. The battlefield, once a chaotic mess of flashing lights, explosions, and metal tearing through the cold vacuum of space, had begun to quiet. Sarah's heart still pounded in her chest, but she could feel the change in the air. The flagship was gone. The Empire's pride had crumbled, and with it, their command structure had faltered. However, the battle wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Sarah's fighter, battered and smoking, flew slowly above the wreckage of the once mighty Galactic fleet. She could see the broken ships of the Empire scattered like debris in space, slowly drifting toward the edges of the battlefield. Some were still operational, their guns sporadically firing into empty space, but they lacked leadership. Without the flagship to direct them, the rest of the fleet was disorganized, panicking in their own desperation. The remaining Earth fighters weren't faring much better. Many of their ships had taken heavy damage, their systems failing, and many of the brave pilots who had fought so hard to protect Earth were gone. The cost of victory weighed heavily on Sarah, but she knew there was no turning back now. "General Carter, this is Lawson." She spoke into the comms, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We've neutralized the flagship, but we're not out of the woods yet. The Empire's fleet is still a threat." There was a pause on the other end. Then Carter's voice came through, more weary than Sarah had ever heard it. "Copy that, Lawson. We're patching up what we can, but the fleet's taken too much damage. If we don't get out of here soon, we won't make it." Sarah bit her lip, her mind racing. Earth had won a decisive battle, but the war was far from over. The Empire's fleet may have lost their leader, but their soldiers were still out there, still deadly. The final blow had been struck, but it would take more than just an explosion to ensure Earth's survival. "We need to finish this," Sarah muttered, almost to herself. "We have to end this fight, once and for all." The Earth fighters were barely holding on now, each one struggling with their dwindling resources. Their shields were gone, their ammunition was low, and their crew was exhausted. Yet there was no choice. They had to hold the line. And then Sarah saw it. Through the haze of broken ships and fading explosions, a new shape emerged from the shadows. A massive warship. It wasn't a standard Empire vessel. It was different. Larger, more menacing. The sleek design was almost alien, even to Sarah, who had spent months studying the Empire's ships. But this ship was a beast, its black hull glinting ominously against the stars. "The Empire's backup," Sarah whispered, her eyes widening in disbelief. "They've sent reinforcements." "Lawson." Carter's voice crackled in her ear. "You've got to get out of there. They've launched a new flagship. It's too powerful. We've got no way to." The message was cut off by a loud explosion, followed by the telltale sound of a fighter being torn apart. "No!" Sarah cried, her heart dropping into her stomach. Her mind raced as she tried to process what she was seeing. The new flagship was unlike anything the Empire had fielded before. Its weapons were massive, capable of obliterating entire fleets in a single strike. "General, we can't run. Not with that thing out there," she shouted into the comms. Carter's voice returned, graver than ever. "We've got no choice, Lawson. You need to get your team out of here. We'll cover you, but you've got to retreat." For a moment, Sarah felt the weight of the decision pressing on her. Earth had already given so much, so many lives had been lost. Could they really survive another confrontation with the Empire's reinforcements? Should they risk it? Then her eyes hardened with resolve. There was only one answer. "No," Sarah said firmly. "We won't run. We fight." She took a deep breath, glancing at the remaining Earth fighters. "All pilots, listen up. The Empire thinks they've won, but we still have one chance. We're not backing down. This is our home, and we'll defend it with everything we've got." The fighters, though damaged and exhausted, responded with a collective roar of determination. This was it. This was their final stand. They would either succeed or fall, but there would be no retreat. The new flagship fired its first shot. A massive beam of energy, so powerful it seemed to bend space itself. It sailed toward Earth's last stand like a vengeful streak of lightning. Sarah's fighter jinked hard to the left, narrowly dodging the blast. But the others weren't so lucky. One by one, the remaining Earth fighters were hit, their shields shattering in a brilliant flash of light. Sarah's hands gripped the controls as she dove straight for the flagship. Knowing this was her only chance, she fired everything she had left. Missiles, laser beams, everything. The flagship's shields held strong, but the sheer ferocity of her attack forced it to stagger back slightly. The Earth fighters regrouped, pushing forward together, their last wave of desperation. For the first time in hours, Sarah smiled. Earth had come together in a way the Empire never expected. Her ship screamed toward the flagship, and she thought of her team, her friends, the people of Earth. The entire galaxy was watching. Would it be enough? Would they survive, Or would this be their final sacrifice?